Hello there, welcome back to Jennie Designs with Paper. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. I'm working in my art journal. So get comfy and let's get crafty. I'm working on my April Mission Inspiration Facebook group page, and the first weekly prompt was flow. The second weekly prompt was seeing. The third weekly prompt was reflect. And the fourth weekly prompt was kindness. However, I got them in a little bit of the wrong order. So I have here the little copy thing I've made. I've cropped everything down and made them so they'll fit on the back of my art journal page. My art journal page today is watercolor paper, and I have my Gansai Tombi watercolors rather. And I've put some water in my yellows and oranges, and I'm going to work with my alcohol ink air puffy tool to create this flow idea. Now I'm adding a bunch of clean water with a big mop brush, and I'm starting with the yellow. It's kind of a light lemony yellow, and I'm putting a whole bunch of pigment in one section. I'm tipping my hardboard that my paper's taped to, and then blowing it with that air tool. I'm going to continue to do this over and over with a couple of different colors, and I'm going to do it in a couple of different layers. I've tried to get this idea out of my head onto paper a couple of different ways. I used powdered watercolor pigments. In fact, the other side of this page was one of my attempts. There was a specific motion in the pigment I was looking for that I was not getting until I thought to bring out my air puffy tool that I use with my alcohol inks. And that kind of made all of the difference. I wanted to capture the movement of watercolor and watercolor pigment. So I'm tipping my hardboard. I don't know what they're really called. I just call it my watercolor board. And I am moving that pigment around. I'm using the air blower tool. I'm using my mop brush. Anytime I get too much water and the pigment kind of starts to pool at the edge of the page, I pick it up with a paper towel and then move the pigment around again. And this is 2 times motion, so it's not super sped up, but it is a little bit faster than what I was actually working at. Because all in all, just the flow background of this page took me probably the longest. And that's probably because for the rest of the page, I already had planned out what I wanted to do. The big experiment on this page for me was getting this directional, capturing the movement of the water and the water flow or the water pigment. So I'm adding an orange. I have kind of a raspberry reddish pink up there. I'm using these kind of warmer, although that pink does edge toward cool colors. I'm using more of the warmer tones on my background. I will introduce some of the more cool tones in some of the other images. Another thing is when I put my card together to glue to the back of my page, I got them in the wrong order. And that's how I assembled my page. So it should have been flow, seeing, reflect, and kindness. I swapped seeing and kindness. So, we're just going with it. Here is where I really started to appreciate the blowing tool and the flow that I was getting. I did not necessarily like those huge little spider leg thingies, but they were super easy to pick up with some clean water and a paper towel. But I did get that movement. I was able to capture that movement, and it's really what I wanted to get. I know that sounds weird, and for me, sometimes the art journal pages are just a crafty day. Get in, figure it out, put it together, and make it work. Some days I don't pre-plan it. Sometimes I just come in and start putting things together with whatever, jumped to mind the first time I saw the inspiration word or phrase or however it goes. And so I've heat set this dry, and I'm adding another layer because watercolors do dry back quite a bit more pale. But also this allows me to not have it be completely the same size as that bottom layer, which adds some hard lines, which are good texture, but it also adds more to that flow of movement, or that movement of flowing, or I don't even know what I'm trying to say, y'all. My brain is a little bit on the fried side because it is Friday and it has been a week. So, Anyway, I'm just going to keep mopping up the parts I don't like with that paper towel, adding water and adding pigment until I have the desired look. The second layer I am being a little more controlled with. I'm still using my air puff tool, or I don't even know what that thing is called. I really should look that up. My air puff tool or alcohol ink blower or whatever you want to call it. I am still using that tool. I am still using clean water and a paper towel. But I'm trying to be a little more controlled. Also, I'm using less water, more pigment on the second layer. The first layer was a lot of water on that watercolor paper. And the second layer has been more pigment, less water. And that also allows for obvious layers and harder edges and just more texture. I am not as comfortable with watercolors because of their incontrollability, and I am a type A control freak. I am the oldest child. I am the first daughter. I am a mom of a big family. I am a control freak. Wow, words are hard. And watercolors are not always controllable to the extent that I want them to be, right? So this is definitely an exercise in letting go of control. It's also an exercise of learning to live with the things that I do not have control over, like, teenagers and my adult children. I love my children, but sometimes as a mom of adults, I feel like that's harder than a mom of toddlers because I no longer am their main person. Like my adult children all have really good heads on their shoulders. They're making really fabulous decisions. They're becoming really wonderful people, but I'm not their main person anymore, and that's hard. All right, we've got it dried. In fact, I put it down and walked away. I let it dry completely. I'm coming back here to add a little more texture to the background with the Stampers Anonymous stamp set, Tim Holtz stamp set. I'm using the text block. I still have my watercolor paper taped down to my hardboard, and I'm stamping it that way intentionally for some of that to come off. I'm also going to be trimming it down because this is 6 by 9 inch paper, and my art journal pages are about 5.5 by 8.5. So we'll be trimming this down a bit. I used the postmark. I used, I can't remember what all I used. I used 3 or 4 of the different things. Okay, so moving into the next one, I put kindness next, even though kindness was supposed to be last. Then when I saw the prompt kindness, the first thing that came to mind was that Tim McGraw song, Always Be Humble and Kind. Always stay humble and kind. And my color off paper there is another attempt at obtaining that flow look. I have picked up some alcohol ink and a foam blender. This is cobalt blue, I believe, and I'm just ink blending the top of that white piece of copy paper and the edges around it to make it not bright white. I'm adding a little bit more of the cool tones in here. I have peeled off the tape and removed my art journal page or my watercolor paper from my hardboard, and I'm trimming it down to be about 5.5 by 8.5, I think, were my ending dimensions. It still allows for you to see white space in the background, which I wanted. I didn't want the pigment to take up the entirety of the page. It just makes it the same size as the other pages in my binder. All right, so I'm going to work on a collage here. I have some of these little teeny tiny vintage stickers. So this is a lesson in check the sizing when you buy things on Amazon. I was looking for ephemera, and they had this little tin of ephemera stickers. And in none of the pictures did it show them in somebody's hand, right? It just showed that they fit in one of those kind of Altoid style tins. So one thing to note right here real quick is I'm not pushing these down hard because I want to be able to adjust them. I'm not exactly sure. I want 3 in the top left and 3 in the bottom right corner. They did take a minute for me to peel the backing off of, but they are self-adhesive, so I don't have to worry about other adhesives. Anyway, I did not read the description carefully enough to know that these were tiny. When they fit into the Altoid tin, oh, they fit with plenty of room to spare. So this is my word of warning. Always, always, always read the description. I decided I did not like that one coming out the side to be on top. I'm going to change it again. Just so you know, I'm going to change it again. I probably should have left it like this because I do like that better than the end, but whatever. And then I'm going to make a little collage. And these are things like eye charts, vintage tickets, magazine copy, like from vintage magazines. And they are just, this one that's in my tweezers right now looks like an old check, like that somebody paid a bill with, you know. And here's where I decided to change that again. It did tear. So it did tear. Not in a way that I hate, because you won't be able to see it, but it did tear it. So I probably should have just left it, you know. I put it down a little bit too permanently at the last movement, so I should have left it, but whatever. Anyway, I'm working on that collage for the bottom right there, and I even have a little circle one I'm going to put on here. And the text on them are almost all unreadable because, well, they're tiny. And the backing paper, it took a minute and a half to get those off. Let me just say, it was a little difficult. I contemplated putting the circle on top of my little word block there, but decided not to. I did pull out some dark blue washi tape, and I'm going to actually attach this with my Uhu glue stick. Uhu, yeah, Uhu. Oh my gosh, sorry you guys. Brains are not functioning yet this morning. All right, I've glued that down. I'm going to tear me off a little piece of washi tape. And I'm going to use just a fragment of it, not even as much as I pulled off. Most of that will end up being not used, or at least not used at this point, but that's okay. It's washi tape. And, you know, I did put some glue stick down underneath that because washi tape is not permanently adhesive. I fidgeted with this because the washi tape was a last minute add-in. I did not like how that looked. So I moved the smaller piece to the top and put the flat end down. And then I moved that larger little chunk to the bottom corner, and I like that better. So we're going to leave that and walk away. Yeah, we're going to walk away. So now we're going to go into the reflect part. I have a piece of rice paper and that same Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous stamp set. I'm using some archival green ink. Sorry, I forgot to silence my phone. And I'm going to stamp this little flourish 2 times, but flipping them over so that they're like mirror imaged, right? And then I'm going to tear them out. I am tearing them because torn edges are easier to hide than a hard straight cut edge. All things said and done, I could have stamped this on the page and it would have been fine. I stamped it on rice paper, like a piece of scrap rice paper that I have in my drawer, because I thought that the stamping would be more prevalent than I wanted. Have I said it yet today? Words are hard. Oh gosh, you guys. But adding this down with some liquid adhesive, some matte medium, matte medium, will disappear the edges of the rice paper almost entirely. So I'm going to put a little bit of the adhesive on the back of the rice paper as opposed to directly onto my art journal page because that's a watercolor background. It will reactivate easy. I'm being very careful how much of this liquid medium I am spreading onto the page itself. And you can see for the most part the edges disappeared and you just have that little flourish. I am kind of turning them a little bit so that they are not exactly straight, little catty corner. That's okay. That's just filling up the blank space mostly. I'm filling up the background because this is another texture element that is not really meant to be the visible part of this page. I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and heat set that. And then once that's heat set and all really good and dry and stiff, I am going to trim off the edges. See, there's the back I tried the first time. Those were the pigment powders. Didn't like how that turned out. All right, we're moving on. So we have flow, we have kind, we have reflect, and the last one is seeing. seeing, sorry. And the first thing I thought of is when I saw seeing was those pictures that look like their eyes are following you. And Mona Lisa is probably one of the most famous for that. So I printed a public domain copy image of the Mona Lisa and pulled a couple of these collage element pieces. These are a Tim Holtz pack out of my ephemera drawer. I cut one down because it was just a little bit too big. I thought maybe I would use that cut off piece as well. Spoiler alert, I did not use it. Once I have them laid down how I want, sorry, I suddenly got a weird case of the hiccups. I adhered them together with a piece of washi tape on the front so that I could put glue on the back. Kind of how I use the press and seal, with my aligning my die cut images and stuff. It did not work. It did not work. And it did not work because I didn't like how it looked on the page. Not so much that the washi tape didn't stick it together. So I'm removing that washi tape, and here's when I decide, yeah, no, I don't know if I want this. I don't know. I put it on there. Good thing that glue stick is, I didn't like how it was sticking up the side, not the bottom of the Mona Lisa. So I did a little bit of rearranging. I spread the back 2 pieces of collage papers and then decided to leave it off. I'm sighing at myself because I see my hands moving fast and feel like I have to talk faster, and then I stumble over my words. I know. I'm extra today. And we like extra, right? We like extra. I added a little bit of washi tape down there on the bottom to kind of mimic that top collage cluster. That is the right word I was looking for. Collage cluster. And now we've got the Mona Lisa down there. And I like it. It worked. You can still see the energy and the movement and the flow. You can see that reflection. I am going to sign and date this. I will date this April, even though I put it together in May because it is the April prompt. And then I'm going to pull out my hole puncher and punch my holes in my page so that I can add it to my art journal binder. I will flip it over and add the little chopped versions of the inspiration words down to the back of my art journal page. That way I can remember what inspired this page. If you have not checked out the Mission Inspiration Facebook page, I encourage you to do so. Last minute thing, I grabbed that sponge dauber and just used whatever ink was in it, or blending foam, not sponge dauber, blending foam. Put a little blue around the outside edge. It's not super noticeable, but it kind of gives it a finished look. Anyway, as I was saying, if you haven't checked out the Facebook group, Mission Inspiration, go check it out. It is a super fun place. I will have it linked down below in the description box. And I love seeing what Mike puts out for us to work on every week. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I have a couple of other videos here I think you will like. I also have that subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed, I would love it if you did. Leave me a comment down below and tell me if you like the cool tones or the warm tones. Give me a thumbs up and have a really fabulous day.